Hi guys, it's Mike here from KS Bushcraft Down Under. When I make this video, I've been watching some videos about having fully electric camp setups and that. And it looks really interesting, sort of a bit cutting edge. And for me, the maths doesn't work out. You know, yes, an induction cooktop is efficient, as in it only heats the water in the pot, but it's everything else attached to it, especially in an overland vehicle. So I want to go through it step by step and explain to you where I'm coming from. I've got nothing against advancements, but I want to make sure that they're practical. So as an example, we'll start off, there's no free lunch, right? Your overland vehicle is basically powered from the alternator in your car or some solar panels in addition. So this little petrol generator, it's a 12 volt generator made here in Australia by Christie Engineering. This is a small one. There are bigger ones. This one's 20 odd years old. This is a 55 amp alternator attached to a small petrol motor. Now I know, it's capable of throwing out 55 amps, but it never does that. It'll consume about 3/4 of a litre of petrol per hour with a possible output of 55 amps. Okay. Alright guys, the high-tech visual aids here. So that little generator of mine has a 2.5 horsepower motor, which is 1.8 kilowatts. It's attached to a 55 amp generator, consuming 0.75 of a litre of petrol per hour. So in the real world, a litre of petrol has got 8.8 kilowatt hours of energy in it, and diesel about 10 off the top of my head. Now, petrol's not free, so it's yesterday it was $1.80 a litre, but generally around $1.30, $1.40. So we'll call it $1. Right, so $1 for 0.75 a litre, which in potential would have 6.6 kilowatt hours of energy. Now, a 100 amp deep cycle, which in Australia they basically rate them. If you can deliver 5 amps an hour for 20 hours, it's a 100 amp deep cycle. That's 1200 watt hours or 1.2 kilowatt hours. So most of us understand kilowatts. Yeah, a kettle's around 1,000 odd watts, and that's the super duper one. So you could have a kettle running for an hour from a deep cycle potentially. So that little charger, if it delivered 50 amps, which would be doing really well to get that, yeah, it's 0.6 kilowatt of an hour. So out of the potential for the energy for the fuel to that there, it's not doing much better than 10% efficiency. I mean, there's the friction, the heat of the alternator. There's a reason there's a big fan on an alternator. There's a lot of friction losses. So replacing the power taken from that deep cycle battery is considerable. Whether it's spinning on the alternator of your car or whatever, it's still going to have to be replaced, and it's going to take energy in the case of your vehicle fuel to replace it. Now in comparison, gas has a lot of energy, so I'll explain that now. Okay guys, relatively small bottle, which I prefer for overlanding rather than the 9 kilos. LPG in Australia, yeah, mixture of butane and propane. But anyway, we'll work on propane. Propane, 47,300 BTUs an hour for a kilo of propane, or 14 kilowatt hours per kilo. So in this bottle, if it was full, it's got 56 kilowatt hours. So we know our 100 amp deep cycle is 1.2 kilowatts. Now of course when you put your pot on the stove, it's not 100% efficient either, yeah? So especially if it's windy. But there is a huge amount of energy in this. Okay guys, so I mean we're all familiar with gas stoves and stuff. These little fellas here, they're a great little butane stove. They run on a relatively small cylinder, and I'll not say they're the most efficient, but if you calculated on 20 grams of gas will boil a litre of water, that's an awful lot of boils out of a 4 kilo cylinder. That would be, you could boil about 200 litres on the 4 kilo cylinder, and that's with the efficiency loss between the two. So there's a lot of energy in that gas cylinder. Even these little toy ones are actually really quite good. Okay guys, this is a little inverter I've had for decades. Still working, made in Australia. It's a nice thing. Now, they're about 80% efficiency, so we'll keep that in mind. So we've got our alternator pushing that at 15 volts to a battery that accepts 12. 0.75 of a litre for an hour will deliver 50 amps to our battery, regardless of the size. The inverter is 80% efficient, so it's a 20% loss. So we'll take 20% off that. So it brings us down to 40 amps. Now we get to our hot plate. Some of them are 1000 watts, the induction ones. Some of them are 1500 to 3000. Of course, how long are you going to be cooking for? So the sheer maths, before we get on to delivering the load of that, you're probably going to need 3 lithium batteries to be able to handle that load. So at the moment it just doesn't stack up. It may do in the future, but I just can't see it at the moment, guys. I really can't. So guys, I'll touch on the cost of the components. I had a quick look online. I haven't scrutinised it too hard. So a 3000 watt pure sine wave inverter, about $1,000. 3 100 amp hour lithiums, $3,000, all in Australian dollars by the way. 100 amp charger, I could find plenty of 50s, but I was looking, couldn't find too many 100s, so I'm saying $1,000. An induction cooktop, yeah, anything from 100 upwards. So even with my modest fridge setup, I was consuming about 4 litres of petrol a week just to replace the energy used by the fridge and a camp light, a few nights a week. So yeah, probably 10 days worth out of a 5 litre container. So 5 litres of fuel did all that. And I mean, if you've got yourself a dual fuel stove like this MSI Expedition stove, you could boil a huge amount of water and food from 5 litres of fuel. Anyway, let me know what you think, and if you like my logic or not, and feel free to comment and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.